All right, happy Wednesday, everyone. Today, I'm going to share with you a story about when I first started private practice and how my work-life balance got seriously out of whack, how I ended up fixing that problem, and some of the principles I use today to maintain work-life balance. Yeah, let's, I've been forgetting to introduce myself. So before I jump into the stories and imparting some of the lessons I've learned about work-life balance, let me introduce myself. My name is Matt. I'm a therapist in private practice. I like to make videos just like this, all about starting, running, and growing private practices. They're fairly uncut, not many edits. You're just going to see me talking to the camera. I might even mess up or stutter occasionally. I also run a consultation group. It's all online, and that's designed for people who have more specific questions or who want to interact with me directly. If you want to participate in that, you can sign up down below. I'll leave a link. With that out of the way, though, let me share with you a bit about the story here. So I can remember when I first started my private practice, one thing I was so excited about was not being confined to the 9 to 5 schedule of the workplace. So I used to work at a hospital, and my hours were, I think, 9 to 5, 8:30 to 4, 9 to 5. And you were just, that's when your work occurred, right? And everything I did had to be confined within those hours. Not bad. Those hours are not bad. I'm not complaining. But one thing I really was excited about was that I was no longer confined to that. And I started to have like all these ideas like, wow, I know I can do sessions at 5 in the morning, and I'm a morning person. I can do sessions at 10 at night. I can, do my notes whenever I want. And to me, the idea of flexibility was so new. So it was kind of like out of proportion in my mind. Like that was something I was so excited about, was that flexibility. And now ultimately I didn't end up seeing clients at 5 in the morning or anything like that. But what actually did end up happening, was when I got my first, when my first couple clients started to come in and my caseload started to grow a little bit, I was really kind of very, very flexible. So for example, if I had a client come in and, they said, hey, like my work hours, are 9 to 5. I can't really meet during lunchtime. I can do nighttime. I would say, okay, yeah. Like what time? And, we might come across like 9 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, this kind of thing. And for some people, those hours work. Some therapists, like that's their designated hours. But I have a family. Those hours weren't great for me, but I was still just excited that I could do that. Not to mention, I was a little bit insecure because not a lot insecure because I was brand new in private practice. My caseload was just growing. I didn't want to lose anyone. So not only did I have I had basically fear and insecurity about my caseload, I also had excitement about flexibility and the fact that I could just see a client at 8 or 9, whenever I wanted to. And when I first started doing this, I first kind of thought, oh, this is great. Like, look how awesome this is. I can see clients whenever I need to. I can meet their schedules. And, that was fine. When my caseload was small, it really wasn't that big of a deal. However, as my caseload started to grow, I recognized that what was originally positive work-life balance, right? I was able to do things during the day if I was seeing people at night. What originally was good, felt like good work-life balance quickly became a bit out of control because now I was seeing clients during the day, my regular hour, I guess I'm saying regular hours, but obviously in private practice, you kind of make that up. But as someone who, has a family, my regular hours where I see clients is typically like, I'm kind of like back to 9 to 5. Right. And so I realized I was starting to see clients during those times, and then I was maintaining that flexibility and seeing clients at 9 at night occasionally or rescheduling to after dinner time. And this was starting to become difficult to maintain that. And it was starting to, I was starting to work more than I wanted to. And this just wasn't good. So again, what originally started as a positive thing started to become more difficult and not so positive. And that's when I guess the first thing I learned from that experience was that the things you don't have working for an agency, right? So a lot of you going into private practice, you get really excited about flexibility, which, making your own hours, the autonomy, like those are all, they're really good and they're really cool. But, I think you're so deprived of those things in an agency setting that you kind of like, you think that they're much greater than they really are, right? So again, holding space for the fact that they are good. If you're so flexible and you make hours whenever you want, it can actually get out of hand and you can end up working more than you want. And so that's what started to happen. So what I ended up doing was starting to rein it in a little bit more. And by that, I started to hold boundaries for myself. So I established working hours, of course, with some flexibility, but I had too much before. So I decided, I'm going to work between 9 and 5. This was good for my own schedule, my family's needs and things like that. And then I wasn't going to schedule clients outside of that. And so I started to set that boundary. And it's it wasn't necessarily a boundary for clients. It was more for myself. And again, what I shared with you earlier, the fear I had was that I would lose clients or clients wouldn't want to stick with me. But what I found out was, as I set that boundary, clients were actually willing to work with that. They were able to kind of make it work on a different day or whatever it may be. I don't recall, and I know for sure there was no acute decline in my caseload. It definitely was not make or break at all. In fact, it helped. It provided some structure. It helped me kind of answer clients' questions when they talked about scheduling and what it's like in your practice. These are the hours we operate within, 9 to 5. We're flexible in between those. So the fear of my caseload not growing because of this, setting this boundary, were unfounded and ended up not being true. So that was really helpful for me to learn. And then number 2 was learning that the flexibility I was so excited about needed to be exercised in moderation, right? So for me personally, that looked like being flexible within the 9 to 5 window. So I started to realize that, what I was so excited about was getting out of control, the flexibility, and then kind of just reining that back in. And I guess the other thing to really think about here, and that I also learned, was that just going into private practice is not just going to default you to better work-life balance. A couple of things happen. Number one, it's your own business, it's your own practice, right? So you actually start to care about it a lot, right? Maybe it depends on, where you were before. You might care about your own private practice more than your previous agency or something. And so now you're putting all your effort into everything that you do, from the phone calls to the documentation, and you end up working harder. Maybe not harder. I would say you end up working more, and you feel like there's a lot more on the line, right? Because everything hinges on you, and it's your reputation, your business, right? So that's something to be on the lookout for. And then the other thing was, kind of being able to set your own boundaries and your own policies. For a lot of therapists, they end up being really flexible, right? And kind of flexing around different client schedules and offering times here and there. And although that starts out fine, it ends up kind of becoming problematic and then hard to rein back in. So my thought there is, all the things that are great about private practice, just make sure you, again, exercise moderation with them, right? And I think that that's something you have to kind of go through and experience and learn what works for you. And again, for me, it was basically being flexible, but within those 9 to 5 hours. And that's worked really well. But I'm always open to adjustment. And that's what I wanted. I know a lot of people talk about work-life balance, and they feel like going into private, like that will do it. Just going into private practice will contribute to work-life balance. And for some people it might, but you will still have to work on it, maintain it, that kind of thing. Anyway, I hope that this video was helpful. I hope it teaches you something about your own private practice. At the very least, I hope you are now more inspired than you were when you first clicked on the video. Anyway, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.